What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Connected to the Web podcast on my channel, YouTube channel, the World Wide Web of Lending. This is the first official guest podcast. I've had a couple recordings with some other friends on playlists on the channel, but this is the first official recording. And I have Her Highness herself, Miss Megan Ewing, here today. We're going to learn a lot of really cool things about her and her family and what she's doing in the community. And I'm super excited, although I say that word all the time because I'm a nerd. But I am just so pumped to have you here today. Thank you so much. My makeshift home studio and some lights on us, and it'll get better. But I really appreciate you being here and having some fun. And hopefully, I don't embarrass you too much.
I love it, and thank you for having me. I realized that. Well, I didn't know it was your first podcast episode. This is my first podcast interview. I've always hosted, so I'm excited.
Okay, so we got a day of firsts today.
Oh yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let's get into some fun stuff because I think you have a story that could use the entire role of my recording, but I want to give a couple of moments some really special credence. So I think I've met you and your husband together. You guys are wonderful people. You have a really cool story. But tell me about your husband, how long you've been married, and you did already tell me when we met before about how you met. I think that's super cool. I'm a big cheese ball. So tell us about that a little bit.
So we met in middle school, and we both went to Edgewood Middle, and I think it was like the crush that no one talked about. I still have a yearbook that he signed, and he said, apparently I stole his homework in one class.
Really?
So he said something about don't steal his homework again and left his phone number. We went to two separate high schools. Actually, none of us went to Edgewood High.
That's good game in middle school. That's good game to throw a little cheese line and then give your number.
Yep.
I mean, these kids these days don't know about giving somebody your number. It's about Snapchat.
But writing a note.
Or writing a note. God forbid you communicate. Go ahead.
So I say we went our separate ways. We never dated or anything in middle school, but he went to Harvard Tech, I went to John Carroll, and we never spoke again. And it was fine because it was nothing serious. And I kind of say like we experienced life without each other and then realized, it ain't all it's cracked up to be. Had our own life experiences. And then he was in network marketing, ACN, and he had reached out to me, and it was just your typical network marketing peak and slide in Facebook message. And I'm kind of like, I just got out of a horrible relationship. I'm willing to just entertain anything besides drama. So I met with no intention or care about what he was like talking to me about. I was just like, hey, he still looks kind of good. So we met in a Starbucks, and I actually almost stood him up and went to walk past, and he saw me and came out the door.
Wait. The meeting that almost didn't happen. Were you nervous? Were you like, I want to do this? Because it was kind of a business conversation. So were you like, man, I want to do this? Where did that come from?
It was just, what am I doing? Like, and it's Starbucks when White Marsh, or not Starbucks, Barnes & Noble and White Marsh, before they redid it. Yep. Okay. So it's all windows. So I'm just like, nope, let's just turn this U-turn and go back. Like, you don't need to explore relationships, crushes, businesses. Like, your life's a mess right now. And he called me.
Because he's in there looking. He's like, are you lost? What did he say?
So he said, hey, Megan. I'm like, oh, no.
Did you miss the large bookstore that you just walked by?
No, just missed him. And I went in, and I was like, luckily I brought a friend with me. And
awesome.
He did his great business peak, and I was just kind of like, I just wanted distraction at that point. So I was actually living in the city. I lived in Mount Vernon for a few years.
Oh, okay.
And the good thing about my condo in the city was we had a rooftop deck. You could see the whole city, and it was like,
I love that.
Hey, let's just hang out. And it's basically been every day ever since.
Oh my gosh. I love that story. I don't think there's going to be that many of those type of stories just in the world we live in. And, we won't have to go there, but like, my heart hurts for people that don't have those kinds of stories where like, you have to work real hard just to get the courage up to be in the same space with somebody.
Yeah.
And so I have to ask this, did you ever talk about that? Like later on, like, hey, does he know that you almost walked by? I mean, at this point, he probably does, right?
I'm sure he knows. I don't know if we ever went into deep conversation.
Sorry, Kevin.
the conversation that we go by is we were each other's rebounds. He was just getting out of a nasty relationship. I was getting out basically we had horror stories for each other.
Yeah.
So it was never supposed to last. Period. For either of us, and things just were easy. And
Natural.
yeah, so it was just kind of like it feels easy for a reason. Like we should try this out.
And at that time, like you said, you had other relationships, so like you knew what you liked and didn't like.
Yeah.
And you were like, "This is something I like."
Yep.
So, how long have you been together now?
We've been together 15 years.
I'm not a psychologist, but that's a really long rebound.
Yeah. Married, we'll be celebrating our 10-year wedding anniversary this year.
Oh, that's cool. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Milestone. Kevin, that's a big one. Milestone. Sorry. Well, I think that's cool. And have you ever been to a wedding and they did those dances at the wedding where some kind of like example to the couple about how long everybody's been married?
Yes.
They play a song.
Yep.
So I've been with my wife for a long time too. And the first time it happened, I was like, man, this is cool. We're married, right? Just sitting up. And the way it goes for the audience is there'll be an old classic, song, Sinatra style. And they say, everybody who's married, get up and just slow dance where you are. You don't have to get in the middle of the dance floor. Or you can, whatever the DJ's doing. And then they say, if you've been married for 1 year, sit down.
Yep.
3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And the first time this happened, we were already with for 10 years. We'd hit our 10-year decade. And I looked around. I'm like, oh, my goodness. Everybody here besides us are old people.
Yeah.
And that was 10 years ago. So I was 30. And old to me was 50 or beyond. But, yeah. And then, I'd sit down. Obviously, I think it was 13 years. And then you see the older couples. I just love that time frame because I think it's not normal anymore.
No.
And okay, so you guys have this amazing rebound relationship that wasn't the rebound relationship. Did you produce any little ones out of this rebound relationship?
Yep. So when I met Kevin, he had already had a son, whose mother was kind of not really in the picture at all.
Okay.
So we have him who actually just turned 18. And then we have our son who's 11, and then our daughter who's 8. So 3 kids.
Three's a lot.
About 6 foot. So
I didn't want to ask, but are they the same vertical level as you?
No. So the 11-year-old is my height.
Okay.
The 18-year-old is 6 foot, and then I'm sure the 8-year-old will be towering over me.
Does the 18-year-old kind of have like a big brother role? Or is he kind of just doing his thing because he's about to leave the house and start his life or whatever? Is he a good big brother?
I think he's like figuring out life.
Yeah.
And
which is tough.
Yes. So
always and nowadays.
When he's able to, he's definitely big brother. And the middle son is like the jokester. We call him the troll of the house.
Oh.
So he's a little harder to like dig into.
But troll.
Yeah.
So troll.
Him and
awesome.
The 8-year-old have a great relationship. And he has basketball 7 days a week. Yeah. So figuring out life is for me. I'm like, hey, if it's more of you figuring out your stuff and then a little less on them.
I almost feel bad for the firstborn sometimes because you're learning too, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Kevin's going through his own dynamic. You've got yours. All the relationships are really, the titles of relationships are irrelevant, but everyone's learning with the oldest.
Yeah.
And then, by the time you get to the youngest, you've made some mistakes. You've gotten some things right. You're repeating the right things and not the, bad things. But it's tougher on the older ones.
Oh, yeah.
Because they kind of get that. Our careers are budding. We've got to be involved in the careers, but sometimes the younger ones get the benefits of our family hustle and our family stories. But the oldest ones, they were there at the beginning, so it's tough for those guys or gals sometimes too.
Yeah, because he was with us when we're working full time. So basically, with me and Kevin, while we're close with our families, when it came to daycare and things, our families just had their own things going on.
Yeah.
So it was. I work during the day, he worked at night, and it was just the oldest had to kind of go through all of that, and the youngest doesn't know what a daycare is, doesn't know what a babysitter is.
Which is awesome.
So she gets this lovely version of parents who haven't, and of course we'll never have it all figured out, but way more figured out than we did with him, and he muscled through it all with us.
I think having an older sibling for some family dynamics is kind of like having a grandparent. You can have a functional family without them, But when you have that dynamic in a family, it's so special to have the older sibling. It's kind of like these different versions of life because you have the grandparents, the parents, and then having that older brother or sister, I feel is real special. So that's cool that your young ones get to experience that for, big brother.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So are you from Harford County? So you said you went to Edgewood. So have you lived here your whole life?
I lived here my whole life.
Okay.
Except
true local.
Mount Vernon. I did Mount Vernon for a few years.
That doesn't count. Not when we, college years. That doesn't count.
But, I bought a condo in Mount Vernon.
Okay.
And I loved it there. But, it's city living. So my condo was 440 square feet. I knew I always wanted a family. So
spacious.
I came right, and it was weird because I was like, I'm not going back to Edgewood. And Edgewood just holds a piece of my heart. So I moved right back to Edgewood. My parents still live in Edgewood.
I was going to ask.
Yep. My brother bought a house a block away from my parents in Edgewood. So we're all
jealous.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I kind of migrated down 95, down 83, over 695 and up 95. I couldn't afford to get back into my neighborhood. I'm from Hereford. So like the farmland all started getting sold when I was growing up. And these little 60-year-old ranchers that the parents own are now like $500,000. That's just not an option. So yeah, but I think Harford County is so special. It's got so much of everything. And I feel like every county says that, but Harford County really has so many different diverse like areas. And it's so cool to have those mixed in. And I know we'll talk about something special to your heart in that community in a couple of minutes, but I think family is so important too, because this is a conversation that will evolve into a business conversation. I think people buy from people. And when I say buy, that's cheesy, but I do think that people matter, and I appreciate you being willing to share your story. A lot of folks don't want to talk about it too much, but so how do your kids like the studio that you guys have? Do they come and run around and enjoy it, or do they realize how badass that is, or?
No.
Okay.
But I think the reason they don't realize how badass it is because we don't realize how badass it is.
I'm going to change that.
I say I'm humbled to a fault, and it's something I've always known. The youngest loves it, but she's the creative of the house.
Okay.
So her bedroom is a museum. Every wall is dedicated to a different theme, and it's all her artwork that she's put up. She sells tickets to come into her room. She has...
What's the currency at home? Certain meals?
No, she charges us $1.
Oh, goodness.
And then now she's selling some of her art.
Okay.
And it's $1, and she meets you at the door, and she goes around the house and lets you know when the shop is open. And she will also let everyone else in the house know if you haven't purchased.
Let's see. 2 entrepreneur parents have an entrepreneur child. That is not a shock. Yeah. What a cool thing. That's so funny.
And we thought we missed it because our oldest is creative in his own sense. So he makes music, and then he streams video. But his brain is like so hard to explain. So he's a genius, but won't accept his genius.
Yeah.
When he locks into, like, when you see him make music, it'll be like 10 layers of stuff. And I'm like, how did you hear that?
Yeah, like hurts your brain.
No, it was in my brain. I'm like, no, that's not normal. And I was like, I'm not normal. Like, I'm not saying it in a bad way. Like, no, you are a literal genius.
Profound, different, special.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So his genius is more internal, where hers is all over the place.
Yeah.
And then our middle son, he's the easy, fun one. He's the talker. He doesn't, now if people see this that know me, they're like, your son doesn't talk to anyone. If he makes a connection with you, you're best friends.
Jibber jab. Yeah.
Yep. And he's like creative in his conversations.
Yeah.
He has the most amazing questions for people. So they all have their own little touch, and it's fun to kind of watch. Like, how did you guys all grow up in the same house? Because you're so different.
And you're like, I made that. You know, like you and Kevin are like, well, we made him. We made her.
Yeah, we don't do anything else in life. Like, we did pretty darn good.
I mean, I think a lot of people are like that. That is your legacy, your children, right? And we hear that. I've heard that phrase. I mean, I'm 43. I've heard that phrase growing up. And it didn't click until probably the second or third kid, where like, holy moly, like, this is our legacy. This is the people that we made. We brought them into the world, and their vision, the shape, their goggles are going to come from us.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of responsibility. But obviously, if you have a budding museum curator and a budding musical artist and then a middle creativity. You've got some things going on in that house that are rubbing off pretty good. So that's kudos to you guys. I mean, as a parent, hopefully you realize that isn't randomly in their DNA. That's environmental, where they say nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
Like, obviously they might have had the genes you guys gave them, but they're grown up in an environment where they're able to feel comfortable opening their mind and sharing that. And oh God, I get lost in that. I'm nerdy about that. It's just so cool that environment exists.
Yeah.
And they get to see you guys doing it. So they're like, well, mommy and daddy did it.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's so cool.
And it's cool because that's not the environment I grew up in. And where, of course, like, I have very loving, I mean, my mom's my best friend. So we scheduled this around, I played pickleball at 1:30 with my mom and my aunts.
So much fun. If you don't know how to play pickleball, you can get embarrassed by those older folks.
Oh, yeah, they're mean.
Oh,
yeah, it's like an over 60.
It's a culture.
And
you're in or you're out.
So we go as a group of 4, and if we don't have all 4, we don't go because they're mean.
You get bullied.
But my mom's like that best friend that won't sugarcoat anything.
Oh yeah, someone needs that in your life.
Yeah. So I mean, it hurts my feelings sometimes. Like she knows it, but she came from, and I had a business coach that once said, like, you have to remember our parents came from the Great Depression, and what they learned from the Great Depression was you find a good job and you stick with it and you never let it go. So that was instilled in me growing up. So that's what I did. And I found a good job or went to school, went to college, found a good job, and that was supposed to be it. So it's cool to see the different dynamics because it wasn't taught to me. It was a whole bunch of random crazy stuff that I just say I kind of like figured it out while I went.
So it's a really easy layup transition into like your entrepreneurial journey. So let's kind of start there and see how we go.
Yeah.
Because I need to hear, and I've got a couple questions now from what you just said about that. So if you're willing, let's go down that road.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So with that being said, I just had this like vision of something that I went through, and I want to kind of ask you if you went through the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was scary for me. So was there a moment in life where your mother or your parents' conservative values towards employment clash with this growing feeling inside of you that your clock ticks differently and you wanted to be an entrepreneur, self-employed, million adjectives there? Was there ever a moment where in her heart of hearts, her opinions were clashing with what was inside of your heart?
It still clashes. So
okay.
I've been full-time entrepreneur since 2014.
And we're recording this in 2025. That's 11 years.
Yep.
Holy moly itself. That's awesome.
And she tells me, so she'll still tell me to get a job. And it used to really, really mess me up.
Yeah.
And because I didn't understand where it was coming from.
Yeah.
I took it as, I just want my mom to be proud of me and believe in me. I wasn't seeing it as she just wants it to be safe.
Yeah.
She knows a
She's
job
fearful.
means security. So once I understood that part, we were able to get along a little better. And it probably started when I got fired from my federal job. So the epitome of success, as I was raised, was, hey, a good job is a federal job. You get the vacation time, you get the retirement, you get this, and that was the epitome. So I did that.
Check. Mommy's happy.
Yeah, and it was a federal job downtown, so that's fancy. I had my own office. Everything was beautiful, and during that time, I really loved my job. But my supervisor would tell me things and just say, and it would be little comments, and I never understood, you're meant for bigger than this. You're not meant to be here. And I'm like, I get awards for my job. What do you mean I'm not meant to be here?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it was weird because I'm like,
thank you.
Yeah. I was like, I don't understand these private conversations we're having. Like, give me some more detail. So I actually decided to leave the federal government purely based on the pay scale that they had me on. Even if I maxed the pay scale, it just wasn't where I felt I deserved. So Comcast offered a better package. So I was going to switch to Comcast. Before I did it, had all the conversation of like, hey, I really don't want to move. I was a case manager for the criminal cases in the federal courthouse.
Wow.
So a lot of people were like, why did you like that job? but I really enjoyed it. And so I put my 2 weeks in. Before I did, I decided to let my area know, like, hey, just letting everybody know. I decided to leave. Everyone knew I was leaving for money. Like it,
Yeah.
we were a close knit group. Um, so they paid me to stay, and they were matching what Comcast was.
They went Godfather. Give an offer you can't refuse.
They just said, hey, it's going to take us, I think it was 12 months to actually get to where it needed to get to because of the federal government. Like, you can't just throw money out at people. Everything's on a pay scale. And so then I was like, oh, just kidding. I'm staying. Haha. And it was all hell from there. So I ended up getting fired. And for those commuters, you go to Harford County to Baltimore City, you're probably on a commuter bus because parking is so expensive.
Yeah.
So they waited till 11 o'clock in the afternoon to let me know.
What?
And knowing the next bus, I think, was like 4:08 or something. So I was like, okay. They gave me 10 minutes to pack up my office, which I had lived in for years, on a time discrepancy. So unfortunately, their employees, everyone had to go through security. Like, no one was treated differently.
Sure.
Whether you were a criminal or an employee or the highest person in the building, everyone ran through security. So I was on the 4th floor. So if you run a little late, you text somebody, hey, blah, blah, blah. And we all knew it wasn't right. But, there's certain things that go on in jobs where it's
unsaid rules.
Yeah, it's not right, but everyone does it. So you kind of just accept it.
And you didn't make it up. Somebody told you about it.
Right.
You didn't come in going, like someone said, hey, by the way.
Yeah. So I was let go because of stealing federal time and
for heaven's
threatened
sakes.
that I should have been prosecuted federally for stealing federal time. And I was escorted. I had 2 U.S. Marshals, one on each arm. And in that moment, I had no idea what to do. It took me 3 weeks to tell my mom, who rode the same commuter bus as me. So she knew something was going on. And it was probably the worst feeling in the world because I didn't think she would ever recover from the disappointment I put on her.
Oh.
So I never even thought about how I felt. I just started walking down Monroe Street until Kevin was able to pick me up and crying, and I just didn't know what to do because for me in that moment, I lost my future. After I recovered from the initial shock, months later, I realized I didn't lose my future. Like, there's a purpose in everything. But
in that moment,
I could never allow someone to treat me how they treated me. Because I had awards. I had stayed after. I was interviewing with judges. So it was like so much that was happening. I mean, I would have clients, families come into the office thanking me for the work that I've helped because they have limited communications.
What a horrible employee.
Yeah, so it was like I was getting all this praise the whole time, and then so it was like I can't have somebody control my life like that. And for me, that meant a full-time job has that, no matter where it went. That was the thought in my head, and that's kind of what I stuck with.
Because there's always someone that can make that call.
Yep.
In that environment.
Yep.
Is it a fair assessment that something snapped inside of you? I don't mean snap as in loose and crazy, but like something just it clicked, and you're like, it was a scar almost?
Where you're like, so it was
I'm not going to let that happen again.
Yeah, and it was just like a full-blown hustle mode. I didn't care if I was scrubbing tables. I didn't care as long as someone else wasn't in control of my time and what I had to do. Because at the end of the day, the end result was me being fired over less than a half hour worth of time over a month period.
Unbelievable.
Making me I had to watch videos of myself. They were watching me on videos, like surveillance cameras. And I was like, oh, you guys really wanted to get me that bad. You could have just told me.
I mean, what happened to, hey, Megan, sit down real quick. We're noticing something. Why are you doing that? And you would have said, I just thought everybody did it. And you would have stopped immediately if you known it was a problem.
Right.
You weren't overtly stealing from the government.
Yeah, because the bus schedule, it was every 45 minutes. I didn't want to get to work 45 minutes early. So if it meant most days I'm on time, but a few days I might be a few minutes late, it made sense to me. I stayed after too. Like, so I ate lunch at my desk. So it was like, really? This is how it's going? But that was like that moment of just I don't know. I don't have any idea what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But I was working part-time for a company called Paint Night. And I was just an assistant. I enjoyed it. It was my way of kind of socializing. They did paint events in restaurants. And I was just like, okay. The owner at the time was kind of like, hey, I'd like to bring you on as a partner. And all the events that you run, I split with you 50-50. I scheduled my artists, I did everything. And then one time an artist called out. And I don't have an art background. Like, I don't see myself as a creative at all. And
different kind of creativity.
yeah, so I was
Not
like, okay,
hand.
we're going to cancel. He was like, you're not going to cancel a 50-person event. I was like, I am not getting up on, and at the restaurant it was Dick's Last Resort downtown. You know, notoriously
Where
known
they
for not being nice.
Have fun, not being nice.
And they had a stage. And I was like, no, not doing it. Don't know how to paint. I know how to set up tables. Nope.
And for the audience, this is a you rent the room out, have all your people that come into the room.
Mm-hmm.
One artist step by step paints, and then everyone has their own canvas and then mimics. Correct?
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, because that hit wildfire a couple years ago,
Crazy.
and you're in the middle of that, and then it is run by an artist, like someone who knows the steps. I mean, you don't get taught how to drive from your grandmother who doesn't own a vehicle.
Like,
you
hey,
get taught by someone who knows how to drive. So if you're going to be doing a painting, getting taught by an artist, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to cancel.
He said I wasn't going to cancel, and I was like, he told me, Megan, this is our revenue split for this event. You are already there. On top of the revenue split, now you will absorb the artist pay. And I was like, you know what? It is all set up. So I did it, and I'm like shaking up top.
I was going to ask if you were legit, like, that's almost stage fright at that point.
Yeah.
In all fairness, right? Because you were on a stage.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they had it. So we didn't have a private room there. It was in the middle of the restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
I somehow survived it.
Was anybody like, that sucks? Because
no.
It's Dick's restaurant. Like,
I mean, I'm sure there was stuff. I think I was like so zoned out into like, don't cry, don't fall, and
don't panic, don't panic.
That I just did it. And then we leave a tip jar out at the end of the night. And the amount of tips I made and the amount of people who like came up to me, I was like painting sucked. Like, were you guys at the same event? But all they didn't. It was in that moment that I realized no one came there for a good painting.
They weren't trying to be Picasso.
For a good experience.
Yeah.
And I gave them that, and I was like,
"Oh, Megan, that's so cool."
Okay, so I don't have to be a good painter. And then I ended up teaching here, and it took away that fear if someone called out or couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I just picked it up.
Oh my God, what a cool! I tell you that I've seen, my wife's gone to a couple of those over the years and come home with, let's just say, it wasn't a Picasso painting, but she's all smiles, has a great time, and to be honest, until you said it in that moment, and I was thinking in my head as you said out loud, they didn't come for the painting, because it was a lot of crab stuff, a lot of Maryland stuff, theme or whatever, and I'm like, this could have been epic, but what the heck, you know? But that wasn't why they did it, and I just realized in this moment that you provided an experience for the men and women that were there to just relax and have a good time and do something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's cool. I mean, that sounds naive, I guess, from me, but I didn't realize what the big kick for that was. But what an interesting way to just relax.
Yeah. And I didn't realize it because I'm thinking they're coming for something precious to hang up on their wall. So once I started to realize that, then it kind of changed my thing to where it ended up, the opportunity came for me to take over the Baltimore area. So I handled Baltimore County, Harford County, Cecil County.
Wow.
And which was an amazing opportunity. And for me, I had never owned a business nor cared to own a business at that point. But are you going to say no? Like, so it just landed there. So I ran with it, and I had a huge team. But I realized in that moment, other people were hiring artists. Artists aren't good teachers for the most part. Like these true to life artists.
Yeah.
They get so lost in their craft that it's hard to do.
It's their
both.
passion.
So you find an art teacher, or you find someone that may not be artist.
Yeah.
So then I knew how to hire. So my events were different because instead of having this person who was worried about every line.
That makes so much sense when you say it out loud, but I would never have guessed that.
No, and I
Yeah.
didn't only knew that because I was forced into teaching it. So it went amazing. I hit top in the whole industry of paint night, and it was all throughout the country. My
Wow.
area was number one for, I think it was 3 months in a row, and I decided to expand. So Savannah, for some reason, has always had a piece of my heart, even before I ever went
Oh, it's
there.
beautiful.
So I opened up Paint Night Savannah, and I'm like, everybody's looking at me like, "What are you doing?"
Give me a time reference here. When in time is this? Savannah.
So this would be, good question. Paint Night ended, I want to say, for me in '09.
Okay.
So it's probably like, oh, no, 2019. Probably like 2017.
Okay. All right.
So I launched, and Savannah's small enough to where I could go to a few. I had two amazing artists there that just killed it. I didn't have to do
That's
anything.
great.
And then when I came, we made a party out of it. So everyone's getting shots, everyone's getting appetizers,
Yeah.
and I just
Having a
loved
party.
it.
Yeah.
And then paint night started to die down, which for me was scary because I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
I already been through despair
Yep.
once before.
Been there. Seen that.
Paint night grew so fast that the owners just business wise didn't know how to handle it. So it wasn't a franchise model, it was a licensee model. So I carried the license for Baltimore and Savannah, but they never put a limit on the amount of licenses in an area.
Competition.
So it got oversaturated very,
Yeah.
very, very fast. I mean,
It did seem like everybody was doing it.
Yep.
Around
And then
there.
they would put, licensees would put an event right next door at a restaurant.
Come on.
And because it just everyone got selfish. And because the money that was being made was amazing. So I get the greed, I get the understanding, but no one saw the far end of, hey, this can't last forever.
Yeah.
And so then they had to cut back. So I ended up leaving Paint Night 2019. I got the call that they were cutting back 2019, the day before I was taking the whole family to Disney for the first time.
Oh, that's lovely.
And I'm on my way to one of my events, and it was October. And they said, hey, as of January 1st, we are limiting the licensees, and this is what we've decided. And at that point, my events were getting slow. The money I was making was okay, but it was way
The
different.
change had already started to happen.
Yeah, so recognizing that, I was like, you know what? Kevin had just started getting into photography, mainly because he always had an interest. But for my events, having a professional photographer there taking the pictures means the pictures get shared more instead of people taking it on their phone. So it worked, and then it kind of grew. So we just kind of transitioned. And then for Savannah, I had just told by that point we were down to one artist. She ran 3 events a week. And I said, hey, how would you feel about taking over? And she was like, what do you mean? I said, you're doing everything anyway. I will send you training videos on the back end process, and I would like to sell you the business, and only at supply cost.
Yeah.
And she was like, what? And I was like, no, supply cost only. I just want to be reimbursed for the supplies that you have, and that's it. And she took it over. So, and it was just her. So she didn't have to put up an LLC. She didn't have to hire employees. And for me, it was like, that was like my transition into, before I realized that
you tasted it a little bit.
I really like helping other entrepreneurs achieve stuff that
so that's a moment.
Unimaginable.
That's a moment.
Yeah.
And you lived through it personally, and then you had that, is it appropriate to say call to action almost, where you're like, I'd love to help other people that are in this situation?
It took me a while to see it that way.
But that was where...
But it just lingered, where I'm like...
The spark. It was a spark. It wasn't a fire yet. It was a spark.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so through this journey, and I'm hearing this story, I'm hearing some awesome things. A question keeps coming up in the back of my head that I wanted to ask you. So you wear 2 very important hats while you're dealing with this other budding business, these entrepreneurial feelings, these life moments that are happening. You are a wife and a mother. So Tell me about your role as a mom and a wife and how that changed a little bit when you started becoming the business owner that you are today. And we'll talk about your business in a minute, but I want to hear about you. Like, did anything change as mom mode or wife mode when that was happening?
It seemed like for me almost like a natural balance. So of course the
Wow.
oldest, he rode with us the whole way. So he can tell you paint night stories. He was coming and dropping off supplies with us. He was because it wasn't like we were leaving him home at that time.
Yeah.
My daughter came after paint night, so she doesn't remember any of it. My youngest son was in like car seat.
Okay.
So he would be in the car seat, we drop stuff off. So as mom mode took on more, I hired more. So I was running a whole lot less events personally, and I
Yeah.
was more drop off, set up if they need help setting up, and then pick up. And then what had happened was we would have events like the same artist might have 3 events in a row.
Okay.
So then I just started to ask like, hey, do you mind just taking the stuff home with you, leaving it in your trunk? You're going to be using it tomorrow. So the flexibility in my employees definitely made it easier.
Yeah.
Because there were certain nights we were running 2 events at a time, 3 events at a time, and I just couldn't do it. And luckily, Kevin just picked up and whatever
Yeah.
I needed, whatever event he needed to be at, pick up stuff, drop off stuff, take pictures. Um, he is very good about just kind of like rolling with the punches. So
He seems like that guy.
yeah,
You know,
so
like, yeah, let's roll
it
with it.
it just kind of worked. I was making more money than I had ever made in my life, so it just gave me the time that it was taking working on things, or because the events were usually in the evenings. Um,
Well
we
spent.
celebrated with.
Yeah.
So we went to Disney, we went to Canada, we did
Yeah.
things that otherwise we wouldn't have been able to do. So I never felt like I was giving too much to the business. And then it never conflicted with being home, getting them on the school bus, getting them off the school bus. So they
Yeah.
were getting experiences. I went to a babysitter. So I didn't get put on the school bus by my parents. I didn't get picked up by my parents.
Yeah.
So I think I knew, knowing I was giving them that, I never felt, one, I've never been asked about that, but I've never felt like I was shorting them in any way.
Yeah. Betraying that ultimate
Yeah.
role. Have you healed yet from what happened in the government job because of these wonderful things that you've experienced afterwards? I mean, you can say the phrase, "I'm so glad that happened," and not be healed yet. Like, part of that healing could be the motivation behind your badassness,
Yeah.
right? But have you healed yet? Do you think?
No.
Okay.
Um,
When you say that out loud, do you get chills at all? Like, it's pretty
yeah.
crazy, right?
I was like, ooh, why do you have to ask that? I don't think I've healed, and I don't know that I realized I hadn't healed, but it's like caused severe trust issues when it comes to
There's
like,
a ripple effect of that.
yeah, with business relationships, with things, just it. I lead my heart. I sometimes say like I wish my brain was as big as my heart because everything I do, I
Yeah.
lead with my heart.
Yeah.
So then when someone hurts your heart, it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
So I think with that, it was just at the end of the day, I don't think I can understand how anyone could not have seen me as a human. I mean, this is at the federal job before I got fired. So my son was 1. They threw me a baby shower. Employees at the courthouse were at my son's first birthday. So all of this to happen. So they were at his first birthday in April, and then I was fired in August. And some of the people that were at the party were the cause of all of this. So it was just I never understood why
Yeah.
I didn't deserve to be a human in that moment. And I think that's something hopefully I can like heal. And I don't think I haven't. I've
That's
definitely have
powerful.
healed, and I'm it doesn't upset me
You're
anymore.
healing,
Yeah,
not all healed.
right. So,
Yeah.
but I don't think I'll ever. I don't know if there's ever going to be a point where I'm like completely healed, and because I don't understand. Like at the end of the day, we're all humans,
Yeah.
and the decency. And at that point, I was a young human, and to I felt like the person who ended up firing me almost got like a joy out of it.
Ew.
Where I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know. There was no reason
Like,
for like U.S. Marshals are not the smallest guys in the world, and these are the guys I'm joking around as I'm going through security. So they're feeling awkward, but
every
they've
day.
been giving strict instructions.
Hey.
They were not to let my arm go,
Mm.
and
This is the subhuman thing that you're describing.
yeah, so it was kind of like, why would you? I was no threat to anyone. I'm 5'1". Sometimes I lie and
And
say
a half.
5'2", but but I wasn't a threat, and I was like bawling my eyes out, like I
Yeah.
really
You're
wasn't
emotionally
a threat.
compromised.
And yeah, well, escort me out, whatever. It's a public building. Do what you got to do. But I felt like I was like the scum of the earth. I'm like, I'm dealing with the gang cases of Baltimore City in the federal court. Like, I know people who are doing some bad stuff. Like me, like little old Megan.
The irony.
Yeah. So
that the subject of your work was a bad element of society.
Yeah.
And then you got treated subhuman.
Right.
So we're going to talk about what you're doing now in the community, in a second or two. But I've got to make a connecting idea here, and it's just it's a bit of a tough one. But I don't know where you are on your spiritual journey. None of my business. But I'm hearing that these signs were being put out there, and knowing what you've already done for the community and what I know you're planning to do, which I won't, let a cat out of the bag. I'm just getting this weird sense that was meant to be. And the moment you say that, your trauma was meant to be given. I mean, you obviously had trauma from being treated subhuman from a government space, people that were at your, at the thing with your kid. Like you said, July to August is 60, 70 days after, right? They're there. Like that's a traumatic experience. And we all deal with trauma differently, but it's almost like you had to go through that in your journey to be where you are. And then again, we'll talk about it in a second, the lives you have changed at what you're doing in Harford County and Edgewood. That never would have happened if they didn't treat you like crap that day.
Yep.
And you had that snap moment where it's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
Right. And if that hadn't happened, all these young people who are getting so much value from your model now never would have had that. It's weird, right?
Yeah, and I always look at things of what was the purpose in that moment.
Great phrase.
Paint night taught me how to be a business owner, but it also taught me how to get on stage and speak in front of people. And I've spoken at Harford Community College. I speak at different schools. I've spoken in conferences. So
yeah,
I had to be trained, and I would never speak on a stage if I didn't go through that moment. A lot of my work when I was working for the federal government involved teen boys, and there was women, and there was older, but a lot of it, the cases that involved the teen boys really hit home. And not to discredit anything that they did, because a lot of the crimes were,
of course,
pretty bad. But my position was, I was basically being the case manager. I was the person in between the defendants, which were 90% of the time incarcerated, and the judge. So, of course, they're never getting access to the judge.
Yeah.
So it's jail calls coming in. So they start calling the courthouse because, one, those calls are free. Two, a lot of times having conversations with them, their families stopped answering. And
that gave me chills.
Yeah, so in that moment, I'm like, and it pulled at my heart. And everybody said, you're a case manager. Like, you don't have to answer their calls. We have caller ID. Like, if jail call, don't answer. Well, I didn't. I answered. I answered every call.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize in that moment what that was training me for. And now that it's starting to come full circle, it was, I've seen how bad it can get if there's not guidance earlier on. So everything in life, I feel like, recycles back to your purpose. So I never hold grudges with things that I experience, good or bad, because I'm like,
which is huge.
This trained me for this.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, in this stage of my life, I'm like, okay, what is this training me for? Because something's going to come later on that I have no idea. So
just like you and Kevin, your husband, had to have your own romantic and platonic relationships so that you were ready for each other in that moment. Fast forward 15 years.
Yeah, we knew what we didn't want.
Right? not that you asked for it,
Right.
but your career was providing you lessons and skills that you didn't necessarily ask or want, but it was preparing you for that. So, okay, so bring us forward now. So, tell my audience what you are doing right now. This is the part that I'm giddy about. This is
Okay.
pretty special. So, what do you do right now, Miss Ewing?
So so I basically, after Paint Night, I started running Kevin's photography business,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what kind of taught me I'm good at.
Future episode, Kevin will be with us.
I'm good at helping people grow their businesses because creatives they just don't have that side of the brain, and if they force it, then they lose the creative part. Um, and it inspired me to launch Think Big Act Bold, which actually started as my first book, and I just decided I wanted to be.
Did you guys catch that? The first book.
My first book. Um, and I just was like, I think it's bigger than a book. And it's turned into what I like to look at as a movement. Like I said, I lead with my heart. So sometimes my heart gets ahead of my brain and I just start doing stuff. So I've been doing vision board events for 7 years, just me, friends, and now they've gotten bigger. And I realized that the power that it's given me. So
I got to stop you for a second because until you and I met, joking that I did not attend something your husband invited me to because I had plans. It's like the way your brain kind of like now knows these exist. I'm seeing them everywhere. I had no idea what a vision board was. And I've been a business owner and in the business world my entire career. I'm 43 since I was 18. Never knew what that is. So for anybody listening, it's like, I keep hearing that word. What is that? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
What
I
is a
appreciate it.
vision board? What is that?
So I guess how I go into when I'm hosting the events, a vision board for me is there's a point in our life where we're transitioned into be realistic. Um, Elementary school, we're able to do whatever we want. Oh, you want to go to the moon? You go to the moon. You want to be a dolphin trainer? Be a dolphin trainer. And everyone supports all of our craziest dreams. So vision board, I always lead when I'm hosting with that of it's your way of getting back to being that elementary school kid and dreaming. So I don't care what trip you want to go on. I don't care what financial goal you set, whether it's almost every year I have a picture of a woman with six pack. I don't have a six pack. I'm getting there. Like
Me
it'll
neither.
come.
Me neither.
But if I put it on there and I keep looking at it, then I'll remember it. For me, I'm a very visual person. So a lot of people use poster boards for vision boards. I use Canvas. The reason I use it is because we're designing our dream life. Mm-hmm. So if we're designing our dream life, we'll put someone else's painting on our wall, but we won't put our dream life on our wall. So
oh my gosh, shut the front door.
Yep, mine is hanging in my bedroom. And I always include encouraging words just because when I'm like out there, the roller coaster of entrepreneurship, sometimes I just need somebody to say like, hey, you got this. Like cry it out in the bathroom and move on. So it's that way of like putting the visualization into what you really want, no matter how crazy it is, no matter who's in the back of your head saying, you can't do that. That'll never happen. And if it takes 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5, like who cares? But it's there and it'll take place.
Oh, it's so cool. So a vision board is a visual representation of either an affirmation that you need to see for yourself, a goal, a milestone, professionally, personally, or financially, whatever, right? Anything materialistic, whatever it is, it's a visual representation of that comes from you, but it's also like a mirror.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're all done, that's you. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we know what a vision board is. So I cut you off. So keep going. So then you got into that vision board with what age group is that? That's that you're at high school or middle school with what you're doing.
I was as an adult.
As an adult. Got it.
It was probably 3 years into like my full-time entrepreneur journey, and I just needed guidance. But it was so hard for me to find guidance because we'll go get a job. We'll go do this. We'll go do this. Well, I have travel goals. Jobs don't really like my travel goals. So it was like, I just need to do this for myself. And I've learned about me is if I include other people, you have to do it.
Accountable.
So first one was in our basement and I think it was 8 of us. So I just sent a few invites out to friends. I said, hey, bring your favorite snack. I have everything else.
Okay.
And the reason I did it that way is because if I depended on myself to just do it, you're going to put it off.
Yeah.
Life, I mean, at that point we had 3 kids. Like, life's going to kick you in the ass
Sure.
and you're not going to do it. But if people are knocking on your door with snacks, you're probably going to do it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
That's
it
awesome.
just grew and grew and grew. And then this year, I have a problem with. Some people have a problem with never executing. I have a problem with overly executing. So if an idea comes, I just
Wow.
snap and
Bang.
I
Yeah.
just do it. So after this vision board this year, something hit me and I was like, kids should really, really do this. And it might have been Naomi. She's our youngest. She was there. She made 3 vision boards that day. And
This is the museum curator
yeah.
child, by the way.
So after that, I was like, who do I know? So I reached out to the Boys and Girls Club in Edgewood. I said, hey, you guys want to do a vision board night? And they were like, yeah. But and I was like, no, I'm bringing everything. They're like, what? I was like, no, you don't have to do anything. Give me the space and give me the kids. And we did it with their high school, middle school. And the day that we did it, I was like, what the hell am I doing?
Like that artist moment where you're like,
yeah,
what am I doing here?
Why did I agree to this? And I walked in and I was intimidated when I walked in. It was actually mostly teen boys. And I'm like, oh, they're going to look at me and they're going to be
How
like,
do you relate to that?
You are so corny. Like, get out of my face. You have canvas and magazines and glue sticks. No, they loved it. I mean,
if you told me a room full of teenage boys were all about a vision board, I might not believe you.
We had 27 kids and they loved it. They're calling me over. They're asking me, oh, is this good? I'm like, is this what you want? Like, and it was.
Yeah, you tell me.
Yeah, it was like the first time that somebody just said, hey, I don't care about your grades. I don't care about where you want to go. Because someone said travel. I said, where do you want to go? I don't know. I just want to travel. I said, no, where do you want to go? So then he's putting pictures of certain places and writing the places under it. And
they don't get that in life.
Yeah.
Any teenage boy or girl,
yeah,
that matter.
Because there was girls too. It was a mix, but it was.
They don't get that normally, unless you have a parent that aspires to inject creativity in their life. Which, hey, not every parent. We all want to. We can't do that. But like, where else would they get that?
Yeah.
So they revive with your concept, and they're putting these things down.
Yep.
What a moment.
So I after that I was like, okay, I have a thing here, and it's never good when I have a thing. So then I decided to reach out to Edgewood High School. I have a relationship. I've spoke at the high school with their Academy of Finance program. And I was like, hey, random idea. Would you guys want to do a vision board event? And you're like, oh, yeah, what does that entail? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I bring everything. Like, what do you mean? I was like, I'll put a few posts up on Facebook. I'll beg people for money to cover the expenses. It's around Christmas time. So any of my family, I'll just tell them, don't give me a gift. I need a Michael's gift card for Canvas, or please buy some from my Amazon list.
For the supplies, yep.
And I did it. It was fully funded by the community
donors,
and family.
Yeah, and, community.
So we had 75 kids.
Oh my Lanta.
I took over 3 classes in one day. And what happened was the one class, 2 of the classes, they had a substitute. So the substitute loves me. Like, she got paid.
Like, no problem.
I mean, she did the vision board herself.
Yeah.
And it was.
She participated?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So it was another experience where it was mostly boys, mostly seniors. And I'm like, okay. So I gave my normal spiel about, hey, put everything else aside, your homework, whatever your grades are. Let's get back to elementary school you.
Or nobody told you can or can't.
And they were asking, could they take supplies home to finish? And each class was about 2 hours, so we had plenty of time. And then I was like, oh, I'm really on to something. So I go back Monday for 75 more kids to Edgewood High. So then it basically brought me into the Share the Vision initiative. So now what I realized is Megan will go broke if I keep doing things the way I'm doing. So the Share the Vision initiative is my way of 2025. I have a goal of doing vision board events for 1,000 kids. The cost is like $35 per kid. So I was like, hey, $35 grand. I can find it somewhere, somehow. Somebody's going to see it,
Yeah.
understand it, and we'll get a few donors in. And once I set that intention out, and I'm very big on, I believe, like, God has a purpose, and if you tell him the purpose, he's going to find different ways to make it happen.
Awesome.
So, of course, I have Edgewood High, and then I was working with Lennox Lewis's League of Champions Foundation on merchandise.
The Lennox
Lewis. Yeah.
Okay.
The 6 foot
Just to
could
make sure we're on the same page.
Kick my butt. But what I did for him was just merchandise. He wanted hoodies and things. He needed an online store, and he couldn't use local because his I guess following is in 4 different countries. So I built everything out, and I was like, hey, I found out they do camps. So we were talking, me and his wife, and about, she actually attended my vision board event virtually. So I'm like, I'm international. She attended internationally.
Amen. Yeah.
And then she's like, hey, we're going to make these a part of the camps. So now cool. It's in the works for me to go out to all of their camps, which are currently in Canada and Jamaica, to host vision board events for kids that, I mean, it's like crazy when you put like the thoughts out there, like what comes back to just say, hey, you've been doing this all along. We're out, I'll build pricing packages for all these different services. But then it was like the one thing that's like held a place in my heart is really what the purpose is going to be.
And all these amazing opportunities.
Yeah.
And you're meeting amazing people. I mean, for better or for worse, a celebrity.
Yeah.
But you're still, because you're so fierce and a badass, you're like, I want to take care of my hometown first.
Yeah.
So how did you bring that full circle? We talked about that before. So share that.
So I guess maybe I call it a problem, but when I act on things quickly before fear can set in.
Okay.
So
I wouldn't call that a problem.
Some people have asked, well, how did you get connected with the Lennox Lewis League of Champions? I was DM. I received a message. I had done work with a Harlem Globetrotter, and she had saw work that I'd done for them. So July 4th, 2023, she said, hey, can we hop on a phone call? And I'm thinking it's like someone just, in the organization, and it's his wife.
Or a bot.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, like what came up, her name, and I'm like, okay, and we start talking about family and kids, and I'm like, what's happening right now? So we launched the store, and then I decided to say, hey, how do you feel about doing camps, other places? She loved the idea.
Awesome.
So I'm working on bringing a free camp here for the Lennox Lewis League of Champions to Edgewood, and I've gotten pushed. I mean, I thought bringing a free camp would be like super easy and people just pick up, and no, it's been months of work, but the work will definitely pay off because I have needs, and my biggest thing was I don't want to bring a paid camp into a community that financially just isn't on the higher spectrum.
Right.
And
kind of defeat the purpose.
Yeah, so I asked for a free camp. Well, you ask someone who gets paid a lot of money to do camps to do a free camp, and it's, I have to work on budget and things. So this summer once all of the little pieces align, will hopefully be the first U.S. camp, and it'll be a free camp for the community. And it's been like really a roller coaster of things because I've never done a camp. I've never. I mean, I've worked with like celebrities, but I'm not to this caliber. And I'm asking a lot from the people that I'm asking things from because I'm like, hey, bring your whole team out here. We're going to do a free camp. Hey, I need a free space. Hey, we need free meals because it's a week-long camp. So I underestimated.
It's a lot of moving parts. Yeah. And then when you add the F word in, it's different,
Yeah.
Free is the F word, not the other F word.
So I underestimated it, and I'm glad I did, because if I would have thought about all this when I threw the offer out, I would have never done it. But now...
You didn't let fear kick in.
Yeah. Now fear's like really kicking in. But
But it's too late now, like you said.
Exactly.
It's there. It's coming.
It's happening.
Dude, okay. So, 2 questions.
Yeah.
Who are organizations and groups that you'd love to be connected to for anybody that's listening? I don't have a huge audience yet, but we're going to grow that to know how to get involved in this amazing project for the youth of Harford County, Edgewood. And with this Lennox Lewis Foundation, what kind of groups would you like to be connected to?
I
Could
think
be a good partner for you in something like that.
we'll go both ways.
Okay.
So vision board wise, um, I think the biggest assets would be Harford County, like Boys and Girls Club. And I say Harford County because for me, until I grow a team out and build further, like have to keep it at least close to home.
Yeah.
Boys and girls clubs, any kind of rec centers that have programs, and then any schools. I believe high schools benefit the most because
Yeah.
they're at a like very pivotal transitional moment and being told to be realistic. And hey, like they have to like life hits you hard after
It's not
after high
wrong.
school. But I feel like giving them that break of life
Yeah.
is really important for their mental health. As far as the camp, I am in the works with a location that really feels like it's going to be the one. So location wise,
Amazing.
I think I'm okay, but we will be looking for sponsors as far as somebody who wouldn't donate lunch every day. And we want to work locally. So while
Awesome.
we'll work wherever, because like you said, free's a big ask. Um, I think that would be like the big one. And
So
then
for some businesses, the second question would be, what's your ideal customer? But for this business, it's going to be almost anybody. But when you partner with, like on the vision board business, if you partner with a space, a location, a company, a club, organization, its members would be obviously the customers. Although it's going to get worked out for the organization. But are there people who are looking for something like this and they don't realize they need it? Because I'm kind of partial. Like I think everybody could use the benefit of a vision board, but how do we transition that into let's just start with Hartford County, like you said, who's out there that you want to talk to that might need to be a part of the vision board quest? And then obviously the Lennox Lewis Foundation will work itself out with the athletic kind of thing.
yeah.
So tell me who's going to benefit from a vision board and how do you get with those folks?
So I might be naive to think everyone benefits from a vision board.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, who's going to say no?
But I decided to build my share the vision model after the Tom's shoe company. So I decided not to go the nonprofit route, but Tom's is basically you buy a pair of shoes and they donate a pair of shoes. So anyone who
Okay.
wants to have a vision board night, whether it's like a team building activity, whether it's for sports or professionals, um, using Harvard Haven Studio, I can give the space everything. And the benefit is your ticket price also pays for a child to attend a vision board night. So instead of going around and just asking people, hey, donate money to my crazy ideas, I'm giving you a vision board event. We have a location, or I can bring it to your location. But that way, it's your way. You can go out there and say, hey, I sponsored a child. So I did this with a
I mean,
group,
that's amazing.
yeah, a realtor group, and they loved it. And then to go back and I got to send them the pictures of, hey, this is what
The
you did.
beneficiaries.
And I think them seeing like, oh, because I think a lot of people, when I say things, sometimes it's like way out there to where it's like, wait, so you're telling me I attended your vision board night, and that one I hadn't developed this model yet, so I just said, hey, here's the regular price, here is the support price, and a lot of them paid the support price. So then the support
You
price,
showed them what the support gave.
yeah. So then I was like, oh, this could work. So once I realized I was charging like $40 a ticket for my vision board, and then I kept seeing all these events popping up, and they're charging 120, 150. And I was
Oh
like,
wow.
so one, I'm not charging enough. So two, if I just double it, now you guys get the same experience. I'm still cheaper than a lot of these other events,
And you can still bring in the
and
Tom's model.
you're giving this
Supporting.
to a kid. I mean, and these kids, they were willing to do. I don't know if you saw the video I put up, but we did a recap video for
Oh
our
yeah.
first event, and they're hopping on camera. They're telling about the vision boards,
Yeah.
and like it was like, no, this is more powerful than I even gave it credit for. So I would love to host more vision board events. I'll come to you, you come to me, whatever it takes. I provide all the supplies, and then on top of it,
Mm.
it will. So I just have a fund. So it's my share the vision fund. So as it builds up,
Wow.
I reach out, or if people have reached out about events, then I say, hey, I'm now able to fund your event, and then keep it moving. And then another thing is people have brought up a partnership with Harford County Public Schools to where they can fund it for me to go into some of the high schools and make it part of what I brought up is either like the January or like a graduation project.
Yep.
So where they have that. So
for seniors.
I haven't pushed that further, but that's another option too.
So I'm going to try to characterize this, and it's important that you correct me if I'm wrong. So if you're an organization, a company, a group of folks that are together that aren't official, if you decide to get a group together formally through a company sponsorship or even if it's a bunch of friends that want to have an event, your ticket price to have you, think the vision. Give me the entity name again. So the concept name is Share the Vision?
Share the Vision.
So if Share the Vision comes out and does this, your ticket will directly sponsor a free vision board experience for a member of our community, a younger member of our community. I mean, that is fantastic.
Thank you.
And I've never heard of something like that before. And maybe I'm naive, but I feel like everybody should have one. And there's a sock company and Tom's. They're two different companies that both have that model, and they have hit incredible amounts of volume because people want to feel like they did something. And the fact that you actually show them what their support provides, and it's not another country, which there are so many countries that need help, but you're talking about people that are in our community. That's incredible.
Thank you.
I'm so excited about that. So I have an idea what I think your answer to your question is, but it can't come from me. Let's wrap up today's amazing session with a question to you.
Okay.
I believe that everybody has a superpower, and just like the Marvel comics, some of them have not gone through their origin story yet, so people might not know what they are. What is your superpower, Megan?
I feel like my biggest superpower would be my delayed sense of fear. So I'm able to act before fear hits instead of thinking things through.
So it's not fair to say you're fearless because you do get fear. But your superpower is acting before you let the fear come in.
Yeah. So like when it came to like the Edgewood High School,
badass.
I sent the email, and then 10 minutes after I sent the email, I'm like, "What the hell are you doing?
What did I just do?
Like you hated high school.
Yeah.
So what makes you think that you're going to relate to high school students now?" But
little did you know, boys.
Yeah, it was
predominantly
too late.
Boys.
I once you put it out there,
send, boom.
Yeah. Oh! And I will never. I value my words so highly that I would never break my word. So I know.
Yeah.
You sent the email. You can cry in front of them. You can shake, and I mean, I shake when I get scared. So I'm up there, my legs are shaking. I'm like, my name is. But I think it's just that delayed sense of fear.
Not to get all sappy, but without fear, you can't have courage. It's not courageous to move forward if fear isn't there.
Right.
So I was going to actually say your superpower was courage, but I like yours more because I do not share that power where I will overanalyze. And then millions of Americans have analysis paralysis because they're like, oh my God, and they don't do it, or they put it off and then never accomplish what they wanted to do, whether it's a vision, a goal, or whether it's a career change or a significant person that you're fond of romantically. They never say hi, and they don't have this moment you and Kevin had a long time ago. So while I believe you are very courageous, I love your superpower, not letting fear play in yet. So that's super awesome. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
I learned so much about you and your family, and we had to purposefully stay away the overlaps with your husband because he's going to be sitting down with me next week. And he's got an awesome story too. But to have two entrepreneurs in a family, in a community, and while you're trying to support your family and grow, that you always keep in mind a way to give back. There just aren't enough people like you in the world. So thank you for being you and for coming here in this humble space.
Thank you.
And hopefully we can grow this thing so as many people as should hear your message, hear it. So awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great.
Well, listen, thank you so much for listening. This was a long podcast because I did not want to stop us, and I am not going to cut out this content. We had to get up and breathe a couple times, take a drink of water, but it's the only time we had breaks here. But thank you for watching. I'm going to put this up as soon as I can. Hopefully you enjoyed. I will put your information in the description section on YouTube so that anybody's interested in talking about the vision board space or the other projects that you're working on. If you have a way you want to contribute to a boxer camp for youth that are coming, hopefully, God willing, this summer to Harford County, Edgewood specifically. If you want to get involved that way, she's one of the badass people to get a hold of. So, all right, guys, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon. But the phrase of the day whenever I meet with somebody is, you just got connected to the web, but it's two B's.
Love it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. See you.